What's up, everybody? Nick Powills, publisher of 1851franchise.com. Today we're talking wellness. Coming up next with Felicia from Live Hydration Spa. Coming up next. All right, Felicia, the story that I always start off with is yours because I think it frames things nicely, and then we'll get into the business. But how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What is your franchise story?
Honestly, the part about franchising is I said no until I felt like I had to say yes. We tried to do a couple corporate stores, and I quickly recognized that what made our brand successful and unique was the people in it. And I'm only one person. And so I recognized pretty quickly that, there's only 8 hours, 10 hours in a day, in that kind of working area. There's only one of me. I'm going to be capped at some point. And so eventually I was going to hit another, glass roof, just like working in the hospital or with, another business, making money for somebody else. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that there was always the next bar and, growth opportunity. If I chose it or not, I wanted to make sure the opportunity was there. And being only one of me, I am Casey, the co-founder and business partner that I currently have. We decided that we needed to find people with the passion and the work ethic that we had to bring it alive. So can't do that with corporate stores. A lot of employees don't technically have that same, drive and passion as somebody that owns it and put their own skin in the game. So we decided to do that, and it took off very quickly. In our first year, we sold over 15 units. So.
Okay, love it. So go back to the journey of becoming a franchise, because I think there's value in this to people that may watch this. So you make the decision. There's only so far we can go as co-founders with the business. We're going to franchise the business. What was it like going through that process of now saying we're going to go from non-franchise to franchise?
Yeah, we are. Honestly, I wish I had like something more shiny. It was my network. I have an amazing network in Omaha, Nebraska. There's actually people take for granted the amount of franchises that come out of Omaha, Nebraska. And so I have some really great role models here, from the maids to Complete Nutrition to Scooters. So having those people in my backyard, I had to be humble enough to say, I don't know. And put myself in connection with people smarter than me that were going to help me grow as a nurse. This wasn't one of the classes that I took. So there was a learning curve, but knowing that there was so much potential and I was able to meet people that had the same passion, it made it easier. But honestly, I'm learning every day. So there wasn't kind of a special roadmap before that prepared me to get me ready for it. It was a little bit of ignorance is bliss. I just dove in knowing that it had to be this way because it can't be corporate. And here I am.
So when you're going, I'm going to back up even more because I'm curious. With your background, you have a little bit of money. You have the background to do this. Did you explore at some point whether you become a franchisee of another brand in the space or a franchisor, or was it straight on, we're going to own our own business?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I guess the backstory to the franchise story is I left the ER because I didn't like the business of medicine. I felt like it was going to steal my soul and I wasn't going to be able to do it. I loved the ER in a weird way. I loved what I did, but I didn't like the politics of the hospital and it didn't align with my values. And so I decided to go live the American dream and be a stay-at-home mom. I made it 4 weeks and I was like, I got to get out of here. It wasn't gonna make it. Luckily, my good friend Casey, who is a nurse practitioner and has full authority in Nebraska to prescribe, said, well, why don't you help me? I actually just had a stomach flu the other day. And I said, if it doesn't get better, go to the ER. She's like, do you know how many times I say that a day? She's like, it's because I have no intervention at the doctor's office. Most of the people at the doctor's office can't even start an IV. Let's pretend I had a nurse that could. We don't have the supplies. Insurance won't cover it. And there is no way that administrator would let somebody take up an office room for 45 minutes. You know how it is in a doctor's office. They need more office visits. So she started sending me her clients and it was really small. It was it was literally a 120 square foot closet that we rented out. And she just sent me patients. And then another provider sent me patients and then a couple more. and we had to grow. We left 4 months later into an 800 square foot space. And then a year later into our first storefront, which is what's known as Live Hydration Spa now. So I already had something in Omaha. So the idea of starting something new with another brand was never crossed my mind to be a Z. I, thought I put the glass roof on myself at that point, which, fast forward where I told you I didn't want to do that again. If I would have gone all in at the very beginning and recognized what I had, I would have started at Legacy if I had a magic ball, but I didn't. I started small, and I just saw the demand and how many people were just coming to us organically. I thought I was going to work 2 or 3 days a week, doing my own thing. It was going to beat the hospital. That was my vision at the very beginning.
And then it exploded.
Yeah.
So there's something that you said there that I think is important to call out. So, and I haven't thought of it this way.
Okay.
So I look at your website, and you're in the same camp as many. If I look and say, is there a Why You Why Now positioning? Is your story on there? The answer is no. But you're in a bucket with most franchisors, and I see that always an opportunity. I'm going to park that to the side.
Okay, good.
The way you just positioned the gap that you saw is, you said stomach flu, you should go to the ER. Hydration or IV support or wellness around IV, any other brand in the category, has been positioned strictly around like wellness, like lifestyle more than anything. And obviously it help conditions or other things that are going on. But the way you just said it was in my opinion, groundbreaking is a big term, but the way you just position is interesting, because to the franchise buyer, there might be an opportunity where you're talking about a competitor to the urgent cares too, and a competitor to the ER. And all of that journey that you just took me on is so valuable. I don't think you've hit the mark from a messaging on your website or in the way that you're telling your brand story, but I do think that creates the point of differentiation in the marketplace that nobody's owned. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's owning, like, you go to the ER when you're feeling sick, but you've created an alternative that goes against what it goes alongside what you were against, which was like how doctors are treating or using medicine in the ER. So I think there's something quite powerful there that maybe you haven't extracted yet.
Well, Nick, what happened, a lot of people don't recognize this if they don't work in the hospital, right? A bystander takes for granted the advancements, even in the last 5 years, 10 years. Women used to stay a week after having a baby, 10 days after a C-section, getting your tonsils out. You used to stay 5 to 10 days. They were scared to death you were going to bleed to death, right? Number one cause of death after a tonsil. You go home within 4 hours now. I can have a baby and say, I want to go, and my OB would release me. Mm-hmm. So that tells you how advanced we got, but that doesn't mean the quality of life from that advancement isn't still needed, right? The human psyche, the nurturing, the care for, the somebody bringing you your pills and somebody nursing you, right? The nurse, my job as a nurse was to care for you. It didn't have to be life or death. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, hey, you're not dying. So you're going to go home. You're going to go visit a couple of these people. And if you come back to the point of death, you're going to come back and we're going to get you back online so that you can go back to another specialist. The hospital separated themselves. They've advanced themselves in an amazing way that we need. But what that did is it opened up this giant demographic of people that don't feel good, but they're not dying. So where do they go? And that just recently happened. Before, you would have house calls. Doctors, my parents could have a doctor come to the house, and give them an IV. And doctors didn't even think twice about having IV fluids in their doctor's office, because now the way insurance codes and reimburse, now they're like, well, that would make no sense. I can't do that. It doesn't make any money. So the advancements have been great, and there's brilliant people there. But what it did is it really hurt our communities in the point of people that aren't dying. And so I just noticed that gap as a nurse in the ER. People were coming in with 10 out of 10 pain, but the hospital was like, you're not dying. What are you doing here? Did you go see your doctor first? Did you go do this? And they're like, yeah, of course I did. And so it just left them very vulnerable. And I'm the one that has to discharge them and say, I know you feel like death. I'm sorry. Goodbye. And I'm supposed to be nursing them. And so it put me in this position to be very conflicted morally and ethically, and it put me in a position to tell, somebody that they just lost their dad, but then go and help the migraine patient. That's a mind disaster. That migraine patient just doesn't need to be there. I can help them outside of that. They can get faster care. They can get safe, efficient care, and it can free up the hospitals. What did we hear during COVID? Hospitals are full. There's not enough staff. So even though, yes, I'm not really a competitor of them, I'm the next step. I help filter them. They're not treating those patients either. The amount of times that hospitals divert care is way more than anyone notices. So that's where me helping others recognize that this isn't a fad. Like, people are like, is this like a trendy thing, kind of like cycle or, different workouts? I'm like, no, this is your life. Like, hospitals aren't going anywhere. In Omaha, there's like 10 of them on every block. There's just not enough people to help the community because so many of us are sick or not feeling well. And so I just need to get that messaging to other nurses and other healthcare providers that it's like, you can do what your passion is in a different setting. We're ingrained to think you have to work at a doctor's office, a surgery center, or hospital. And I just want them to look at another avenue of healthcare because it is very, very fulfilling.
I think that probably the challenge that you're facing, like IV hydration for franchising. IV hydration instantly puts you into a category of business opportunities that are very similar or have similarities to you. And so to the buyer audience, which is quite large, to sell 15 in your first year, there's already a built-in knowledge base on this exists. And I don't have to list off the competitors. But the challenge is what you just said is so impactful. Like, I hear the word care. So that should go front and center. I hear the value of the nurse, which in the current way that you're positioning the business, people aren't front and center. It's almost like, here's the services. But you're talking about care and someone that is like, I want to care for you. I want to give you the treatment that makes most sense for you. And I want to give you the continuation that you're going to need when you've left the situation and you need this additional care. I think about the way that you're positioning your services too. And I understand why it's done because there's so many brands in the category. You're aligning it to the ones that have already worked. But the way that you're telling this story is so much more, is bigger than where you're playing. And naturally over time, I think the business unit will adjust, because like people saying, is this a fad? It's because they see IV as fad. If you said we're care, we're a wellness, we're a solution to the emergency room. Now, not one person's going to question the longevity of that because you're solving the next stage. Whereas, flash backwards, when doctors cared about their patients, it was happening in there. And when money wasn't the driver, now in a world where money is the driver, it's dissipated, and now you're able to pick it up. So it's like you're almost in this weird. I would imagine, if I'm flashing forward, either because you're in IV hydration, you're going to sell the business because private equity will wave a fancy check at you, or the business is going to evolve, and the messaging you just said is going to be the thought leader behind this, where nobody else is thinking about that positioning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, honestly, as a nurse, my background in that, it's funny that you brought that up, and it is really eye-opening because that is the passion behind it. Like I just told you my whole story in 30 seconds, not that long. And it's hard for me when people ask me, like, what, if somebody asked me, if you would have said, hey, Felicia, what's differentiate you? I don't know if I would have said that, but me telling the story, you were able to pick it out. It's interesting to me, how easily your mind focused on that part, where when somebody blanketly asked me the question, I'm like, well, we don't practice hangovers. Like, it's hard for me sometimes. I'm like, I'm different, but I know our stuff is the same. I say it's always how we do it. It's not what we do. There could be 100 IV spas, but they're not going to be a live hydration spa. And so I know that part of it. I know the feeling that I give clients and how we educate our owners to treat our clients, but I never put it in your words like that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that
of course.
Helpful.
I'm going to continue on that path because I have another question on it. So have you seen an uptick in memberships?
We have, but we've grown a lot. We have over 28 stores in 17 states now. So that's going to happen. I will say that last year was a little of an odd year. Like, I just think economics and kind of a switch up, a lot more people bought packages than memberships. So we really capitalized and pivoted our strategy. I think it was something that, long term, I don't know if I'm going to have this monthly fee, but I have the money right now, so I'll pay for it. That was almost easier, which if you would have flashed back to when we started in 2018, if I would have said, hey, I have for $2,000, you get this, they'd been like, heck no, I want a membership, slow and steady. So it's funny how that has to kind of pivot, but we were able to adapt really quickly. And so we have a healthy balance of both. Right now, my clientele at every office is roughly 40% new, 60% existing. So there's kind of that balance there that our goal is 50-50, but that's where we're standing right now. So we're still getting significant, even on our oldest store, which is the corporate store, we're at 40% new, which says that we're not even at the, we're not even barely hit the iceberg of people that need to know how this can help them.
Yeah, I would say there's two sides to that. The way that I see it, if I were to buy your business today, when I'm buying you and I'm taking your store and I'm using that as the catapult, because again, like in the category that you're in, convenience factor ends up being king and loyalty ends up being secondary. But what you said in the opening here is care is loyalty, and so you have it. So like, I would look at like the memberships are an opportunity to almost create what the relationship with your primary physician was, which is like you still kept them, like you showed up once a year for your physical. That's in essence a membership. And so when I look at the way that you're positioned now, platinum and gold, that feels inauthentic and it doesn't go align with the care. And so if you use your care factor, if you were to re-image this and say, well, what's a platinum membership in a different name, or what does that mean? And you can even think of like one of the major airlines. Like when you're at the top, you got a dedicated phone line. So it's like it's almost like we're going to know your name and we're going to build a personal relationship around your lifestyle. I listen to a lot of health and wellness podcasts. I was listening to this guy, Gary Bracca, who did yeah, right. But what's interesting about it, he talks about like the customization of we're going to treat your health that's customized to you. And so what I'm hearing from you as a nurse in your opening statement is that's how you approached humans. So you should almost take both of those, re-image that, because I actually think 60% existing is a fantastic story, because that means it is happening. Like the care factor does matter. You just might not be figuring out a way to celebrate it. And so you lift up the nurses in each of the locations. You lift up the human story. You take yours and being a little bit more vulnerable with it. You reshape the memberships to be more about a care package of this is the consistency of care that you're looking to invest. And I think your business is going to continue to be fine because of the category. I keep on going back to that. Like there could be 100 of these and you're there. But the difference maker that you have is you have a human story that's larger than being everybody else. So I would I'm going to keep drilling that in. I think there's value.
Yeah, I love that.
So where do you go from here? Obviously you're having early success. Things are going well. What's the game plan moving forward?
Nick, everyone always asks me that question. I've gone back and forth, to be honest, like where my heart is. I don't know. I didn't tell you this. I doubt you know this. I have 4 kids under the age of 6. So I am a very busy mom too. Mm-hmm. And that always is funny. It's like, well, I don't know if I can, it's a good time to start a business. I still want to have a family. I'm like, well, you're never going to wake up and be like, today's the day. So, so there is I'm really big on personal growth, financial growth, and, making sure I'm making the most of the time I have here. Part of our mission is quality of life. And so to, walk the walk that I'm preaching to everyone is I have to have that balance. So as I'm sure you can understand, is sometimes my work consumes me, and there's seasons or a quarter of the year that I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been on a plane more than I've been here or speaking, and that weighs on me. So I go back and forth of what I can. But ultimately I just love the Live brand. Like it's me. It's something that it's not a job to me. I do it so often and I do it effortlessly because I love it so much. And it's easy because I just believe in it and I know it's helping people. And when I get to see people that were pretty much told that they're going to live with this pain for the rest of their life, and they don't, that's amazing to me. And I get to connect with people on a completely different level and care for them and make an impact. I mean, we have members that started when I was the nurse that are still with us, and they still send me Christmas cards, and it is because of the value and the priority on these relationships that we build. That is why Live is the way they are. One big thing about Live that is also different is it's not a cookie cutter, because healthcare already did that and it's not working, right? The hospitals say, if you come in, Nick, and you say these 3 symptoms, you're going to get this test, this medication, and this diagnosis, right? It works. It was brilliant. Whoever came up with it and knows those triage, it made efficiencies. It sped up your care. It helped eliminate errors, but it impersonalized your journey at the hospital, right? They're telling you this, and this because you said this. Instead of asking you questions, instead of trying to figure out why or how to eliminate it, it's like, okay, this is what you're going to get. Well, that's scary to me as a franchise. I can't cookie cutter this. I don't want you to come in and say I'm tired and get the same treatment every time, because you're tired for different reasons every time. And that's the main differential take home is, I need to know that. I'm going to spend the time to figure out, are you tired because you just got over an illness? Well, that's different. Boosting your immune system. Are you tired because you ran a marathon? Are you tired because you're stressed? Like, those are different things. And when people say I'm tired, we now in medicine take it as, okay, you're tired. Got it. But are you tired because you can't sleep? Are you tired because you wake up throughout the night? Are you tired because you feel like you wake up and you didn't sleep? Like, there's so many reasons that would lead to a different treatment had we asked the right questions. But we don't do that anymore because we have an algorithm in healthcare. They've able to make it a flow sheet, which works 90% of the time. But those 10%, again, are left like, well, the doctor said they'll see me in a year, even though my blood work doesn't look the same as last year and I've gained 15 pounds and I can't sleep now, but they say I'm healthy. I'm okay. So it's that huge area that I'm just so passionate about, giving people the autonomy to choose that I can get this for myself, not even though I'm not dying. I can do this because I'm not dying. It's so important to me. And so the idea of blowing this up and walking away I just don't think I could do it right now. I never say never. I also said I was never going to franchise, and here I am. So I said I was never going to be a business owner either. So here I am. So that's going, if I put it on the list of I'm nevers, but to say that I don't want to be a part of Live and be, the CEO and help drive the vision and the mission of helping communities have what we've given Omaha, I can't see me leaving that.
Okay, so today I'm in the business of giving you feedback. Maybe the next time we talk, it'll be different. Play exactly back what you just said. And there's 2 things that I want to call it. You said, we are not cookie cutter. And then you gave a beautiful answer on why you're not cookie cutter. Apply that to your franchise positioning right now. It says, become a business owner. We support you. Growing demand. That's cookie cutter.
Yeah.
But what you just said, if you go back to the start of your answer, if you push play on that and said, the value of life, I understand that life is limited and I'm gonna value it. I do want to continue to build wealth. I want to do something that makes a difference in people's lives. Those are the exact same reasons someone buys a franchise, but you went back to the cookie cutter. So take what you just said, redo your site, get rid of the building, put your story front and center. And again, like, you're not having an issue selling franchises. I have a feeling because the industry is hot, take it to the next level, because eventually the industry is not going to be hot, and what's going to be left is the thought leader, and you have the juice to make that happen. And I think your story is amazing.
You said something there though that is really connects with me is, yeah, we can sell them. And every franchisor, this is going to come back to me somehow, I know it, but every franchisor will say that they have sold to the wrong franchisee. And it is not because of the franchisee or the franchisor. It is because of the mutual relationship that is built. I connect differently than people that will connect with Ben at Drip Bar. Me and Ben know that. I will meet someone and be like, you are a Drip Bar owner. You're going to love their processes. You are not going to love mine, because mine isn't going to say A, B, C. Like, it isn't laid out the same. And so I can pinpoint that now. So that's interesting that you said that, because, even though you can sell a lot, doesn't mean you're selling to the person that's going to make it successful, because I truly believe the right franchise system really does equal who is going to excel as a brand. Anyone can fail an IV clinic, right? You can fail it. It's not, there's no home run. It is the system, and it's who you are. If you open your own, if you're a franchisor, I tell that to people all the time that I coach. People ask me all the time for help, and I want to build the industry. I want to support those that don't want to do a franchise too. So,
well, listen to what you said about your distaste on the medical system, on how you diagnose someone. They say something and you give them the treatment. That's franchise sales with most brands. They come in, they say, I have the money, I want to open this market. You go check, and you go, I'll take your check, and I put you in there.
yeah.
But when you diagnose in a positive way, to say, do we align culturally? Do we align with a vision? Are you going to scale? Are you interested in scaling? Are you going to freak out when you start spending some money, which is going to create a pain point on me? Like you know it. But again, like most franchisors go cookie cutter in their responses. Most doctors go cookie cutter in their responses. And when you change it and when you customize the solution back to who's getting in, then ultimately what you're doing is you're protecting the system. I think like we have a beautiful client called Slim Chickens. And if I go backwards in their history, I remember sitting in a founder meeting with them, one unit. I said, talk about your growth vision. They said, we want 25 owners who have 5 units each. And they said, that's what we're going to stay committed to it. So it wasn't like we need to sell 100 next year. It was like, we're going to just keep finding the right humans. And now flash forward, they're $1 billion business. So I think like that you have the toolkit. Just keep going back to that. I think your story is awesome. I think your approach that you're taking leaves so much opportunity to take over things and continue to grow on. And I'm grateful you shared some of your story with me.
Nick, well, I have always thought this. The word membership sounds like something that benefits like me, right? Like, I don't know why. Like sometimes people get it like, I'm a member, I'm a part of something, I'm part of a tribe, right? Like there's a different feeling. Help me think of something. Like I love the way you said like care and about that. Like I want them to believe that, I mean, they're investing in themselves. And that is something we say. It's like, invest in yourself for a better tomorrow. Like It doesn't have to be so big, just feel better tomorrow. And it's one step at a time. Is there a word that you think is better than membership?
Off the top of my head, what you were just saying, the thing that sticks with me, and it doesn't complete it, but you just talked about feel. And feeling is something that is valuable. A feeling package is not the solve. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like keep playing off of that. Yeah, I agree with you. Membership does not hit the authentic side of what you and I are talking about.
Right. It's not authentic.
And it feels like a gym thing. And this is not like, you don't want it to feel like a gym thing. I mean, the term loyalty, it's overused, but it's almost positioned as you be loyal to me and I'll be loyal to you. But yours is bigger than that. It's such like a personalization. It's almost like a personalization plan.
Yeah.
And maybe there's different levels of that too. So, but I'll keep thinking on
investment.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
But again, thanks for doing this. This is great. Yeah. And I hope that, obviously someone watches this, a ghost prospect watches this, gets excited and wants to reach out.
I love it, Nick. Thanks for thinking of us. I appreciate it.
For Felicia, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.